In a quiet, upscale neighborhood, everyone knew Karen, a controlling woman always trying to impose her power, acting like she owned the entire place. People avoided dealing with her as much as they could, until one day, everything changed. On a sunny morning, a young girl was slowly crossing the street with her crutches. She was special, not just because of her disability, but because of the light shining in her eyes, a light of intelligence and determination. Karen came speeding down the road, reckless and careless. Without a second thought, she hit the girl and knocked her to the ground. She stepped out of the car, looked at the girl with complete disdain, and told herself she should have stayed at home instead of blocking the road. Then she jumped back into her car and drove off as if nothing had happened. She thought she could get away with it, like she always did. But this time, she was very wrong. Because this girl wasn't ordinary, she was a genius. Despite the pain and fear, she wiped her tears and made a decision. She wasn't going to stay silent. She started to move smartly. She gathered footage from security cameras, collected witness statements, and organized everything like a professional lawyer. And that wasn't all. She shared her story on social media. People sympathized with her. The story spread, and the small voice became a roar. Karen tried to run, tried to make excuses, but against the truth and the evidence, there was no escape. In the end, she stood in court, broken, humiliated, and forced to pay for every arrogant action she had ever made. And the young girl, she stood tall in front of everyone, proving that intelligence and inner strength could defeat any injustice. She didn't just win, she taught Karen, and everyone like her, a lesson they would never forget. This wasn't just a story about an accident. It was a story about justice, about determination, and about how, no matter how small or different you might seem, your real power lies within you. In a quiet, upscale neighborhood, everyone knew Karen. She wasn't just another neighbor, she was the neighbor. The one who acted like she ran the entire HOA, bossing people around, handing out warnings for the smallest things, and treating others with a sense of superiority that made everyone's skin crawl. People tried to stay on her good side or simply stay out of her way. But one day, fate decided it was time for Karen to meet her match. It was a bright, beautiful morning. Birds were singing, kids were playing, and life seemed peaceful until Karen came speeding around the corner, completely ignoring the speed limits and the safety of the neighborhood. At that exact moment, a young girl was crossing the street carefully, leaning on her crutches. She was born with a condition that made walking difficult, but it never broke her spirit. She was born with a condition that made walking difficult, but it never broke her spirit.
She was born with a condition that made walking difficult, but it never broke her spirit. She was strong, brave, and, above all, incredibly smart. Karen, distracted and reckless, didn't slow down. With a screech of tires and a thud that made hearts stop, she hit the girl and knocked her to the ground. Gasps echoed from nearby neighbors, but Karen, she stepped out of her car, not with panic or concern, but with annoyance. She glared at the girl lying on the pavement and said, "You shouldn't be walking in the street if you can't move fast enough. It's your own fault." Without another word, she got back in her car and drove off, leaving the girl bruised, shaken, and alone. What Karen didn't realize was that she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. Because this girl, she wasn't just any girl. She was a genius. The kind of genius who could turn pain into purpose and injustice into action. Despite her injuries, the girl stayed calm. She knew exactly what to do. She asked for help, contacted the neighbors, and got access to every security camera footage in the area. She gathered witness statements, documented every detail, and started building a case so strong it would be impossible to ignore. But she didn't stop there. She took her story online, sharing what happened, not with anger, but with strength and a powerful message about standing up for what's right. The internet exploded with support. People from all around the country rallied behind her, demanding justice. In a quiet, picturesque neighborhood nestled between tree-lined streets and perfectly trimmed lawns lived a woman everyone feared, Karen. To newcomers, she might have seemed like just another concerned resident, but those who had lived there long enough knew the truth. Karen was the self-appointed queen of the HOA, and her word, in her mind, was law. She inspected lawns with a ruler to ensure they met community standards. She gave warnings for mailboxes being slightly crooked. She called the police on kids selling lemonade because they didn't have a permit. Power had twisted her, and no one dared to challenge her until the day she crossed the wrong person. It was a Sunday morning, the kind where the air smells of fresh grass and neighbors wave at each other from their porches. In the midst of this calm, a young girl named Amelia slowly made her way across the street, supported by her crutches. She had faced challenges since birth, but she moved with the dignity and strength of someone who had fought 1,000 silent battles. Across the street, Karen, running late for a meeting, fumed behind the wheel of her shiny SUV. In her mind, nothing and no one was more important than her schedule. Ignoring the speed limits, ignoring the people around her, she hit the gas. And within seconds, she struck Amelia. The crutches clattered to the pavement. A small, painful cry pierced the air. Time seemed to freeze. Neighbors gasped, rushing toward the scene. But before anyone could reach Amelia, Karen stepped out of her car, her expression cold, irritated. She didn't apologize. She didn't ask if Amelia was okay. Instead, she snapped. "You people need to watch where you're going. I have places to be." And with that, she drove away, leaving tire marks and stunned silence behind her. Amelia sat on the curb, her palms scraped, her knees bleeding, but her spirit unbroken. As the tears blurred her vision, a spark of determination lit inside her. She had been underestimated her whole life because of how she walked, how she moved, how she looked. But she knew something Karen didn't. Amelia wasn't just resilient, she was brilliant. Over the next few days, while recovering from her injuries, Amelia worked tirelessly. She spoke with every neighbor. She gathered video footage from multiple doorbell cameras. She documented every scratch, every bruise, every dismissive word Karen had said, and then she took it a step further. Amelia, a coding prodigy, built a website overnight, a platform to tell her story. Within hours, her page went viral. The internet exploded with outrage and support. Influencers, news outlets, even lawyers reached out offering help. Karen, she didn't see it coming. At first, she laughed it off, believing her reputation could protect her. But as the days passed, her phone began to ring with angry calls. Her HOA board turned against her. Businesses she partnered with cut ties. Desperate, she tried to delete posts, spread lies, even accuse Amelia of faking her injuries. But truth, when armed with proof and millions of allies, is impossible to silence. In court, Karen's mask finally crumbled. Amelia, standing proudly with her crutches and a small confident smile, told her story, clear, powerful, undeniable. And Karen? She was found guilty, not just of reckless endangerment, but of violating multiple community and safety laws. She lost her position in the HOA. She faced heavy fines. And worst of all for her, she lost the respect and fear she once held over others. Amelia became a hero not just in her neighborhood, but to thousands who heard her story. She showed that no matter how much power someone thinks they have, the truth, courage, and intelligence of even one brave soul can bring them crashing down. And Karen? She learned the hard way. You can bully people all you want, until you mess with the wrong girl. In a peaceful suburb where days blurred into routine and the loudest noise was often the hum of sprinklers, there existed an unwritten rule. Stay out of Karen's way. Karen didn't just follow the HOA rules, she weaponized them. She inspected lawns with military precision. She cited homeowners for having wrong-colored curtains visible from the street. She threatened fines over garden gnomes and holiday decorations that didn't meet aesthetic standards. Neighbors lived under her silent reign of fear. Families whispered complaints behind closed doors, scared to challenge her authority. But change has a funny way of sneaking in, usually through the most unexpected door. Amelia, a 14-year-old girl with soft eyes and steel in her spine, moved into the neighborhood with her mother. Born with a disability that made walking a challenge, Amelia had spent her entire life battling the assumptions of others. Where others saw weakness, she nurtured strength. Where others offered pity, she built resilience. The first time Karen saw Amelia struggling slightly on her crutches as she moved into her new home, she barely spared her a glance. To Karen, Amelia was irrelevant, just another face to control. She couldn't have been more wrong. One sunny afternoon, the community held its annual HOA meeting, a mandatory gathering in the park square. Families set up tents, brought baked goods, and tried their best to pretend Karen's rules didn't suck the life out of everything. Amelia, excited to feel part of something, volunteered to bring water bottles across the park. That's when it happened. Karen, in a rush to leave early, perhaps because someone had dared to question her no pets policy, climbed into her SUV, slammed the gear into reverse, and without checking her mirrors, barreled backward. Amelia, halfway across the lot, didn't stand a chance. A sickening thump filled the air. Plastic water bottles scattered. People screamed. Amelia hit the ground hard, pain exploding through her body. She could feel warm blood pooling from scrapes on her arms and knees. And yet, even through the haze of pain, she lifted her head and locked eyes with Karen. For a fraction of a second, fear flickered in Karen's expression. But it vanished as quickly as it came, replaced by cold indifference. You shouldn't be crawling around in parking lots. Karen sneered loudly enough for everyone to hear. It's not my fault you're slow. The crowd froze, unsure, disbelieving. And Karen, sensing weakness, smirked and drove off. What she didn't realize was, in that single moment, she hadn't just bruised a young girl's body. She had sparked a war she couldn't win.